Welcome to Penalty Box Radio Live on 102.5 The Game. I'm your host, Shaun Smith. Joining me tonight is my co-host, Kimmel, also of Penalty Box Radio. We've got an exciting and packed show for you tonight. We're going to talk, of course, our happies and crappies, take a deep dive on Nashville's slow first period starts, hear from Luke Evangelista and Nick Blankenberg on how to fix it, take a look at what Barry Trotz has said most recently, play a fill-in-the-blanks game, look at some poll results, and if we can fit it all in, look at the PBR week ahead. But first, this is the time where we make nice with Ann. Ann, have we survived the snowpocalypse? How are you doing over there?
I'm doing good. We did not lose power here. I was all set. Like I made homemade soup, so I felt like I was living off the fat of the land as well as the next guy. But no, we kept our power here, which I was very thankful for. I know a lot of people didn't. How did you guys do? Did you lose any power, have any trees down, anything like that?
We have fared very well. We're in Murfreesboro, of course. We didn't lose any power. We did lose internet for a while. That got a little
that's not cool.
Lost cable. It was fine. We just went to bed. It worked out. No power loss. Everything's been good here. Like you said, I know a lot of people out there have not. I feel really bad, saying like everything was fine, but
yeah, a lot of places it wasn't.
Just really lucky, and I'll take that. What have you done to keep yourself busy, Ann?
Well, I, again, made homemade soup. I'm extraordinarily proud of that. My husband won't eat it, but I've been eating soup for about 4 days in a row now. And then I have been reading. I spent a lot of time. I picked up Victor Hugo's novel Les Miserables, and I have been reading that. So I'm getting classy over here. Classy and full of soup.
What kind of soup did you make, Ann?
Vegetable beef.
Vegetable beef.
Yeah. Like just a 2-ingredient in the name soup, friends.
Wow, that's really impressive. If you find like a good, I don't know, like maybe some kind of, I don't know, like a steak with a little bit of, or like a ribeye or something with some meat left on the bone, you could throw it in there, have yourself a nice stew.
Yeah. Did you make sourdough, Charles Ingalls?
Yeah. So that's, there is a phenomenon amongst the hockey dads on my son's team. We've got a little sourdough group chat going on. A lot of guys getting back to their roots as bakers here, and it's been a really good time. We've had some successes, we've had some failures, but all in all, it's been a good time of learning how to make sourdough. So I've got a nice couple of pepperoni cheddar loaves in the fridge right now. Got some bread loaves ready to go when the show's over. So we've been busy. We've been baking. It's been a good time. And I'll tell you, Ann, I'm glad you're here. And unfortunately, I don't think anybody wants to hear us talk about what we've done over the snowpocalypse. I think they want to hear
sourdough
about
and soup. Yeah. Yes,
sourdough
I agree.
and soup is on a different time. That's way earlier show. In the morning.
Yes.
We'll let you know when that comes on. Probably not going to happen. But let's jump right into it. We got to start with our happies and crappies. And what do you want to start with? Happy or crappy? I'll let you start.
I always want to start happy, Shaun. That's just who I am as a person.
You go happy. I'll go happy. Okay. You go crappy. I'll go crappy.
I love that for us. All right. Okay. So if I'm kicking off happies for this PBR week, remember, friends, PBR weeks are Wednesday to Wednesday, show to show. My happy this PBR week is Steven Stamkos's PBR week. In 3 games this PBR week, Stamkos had 4 goals, 1 assist. Played a lot of ice time. He averaged a little over 19 minutes in ice time. His season average so far this year is about 17 and a half minutes. So he's putting in a lot of time on the ice. Part of that is because Nashville had 12 power play chances in these 3 games. So that adds some ice time for Steven Stamkos. But I especially want to shout out the fact and I want to give credit to Steven Stamkos, because I was one of those people that was like, I don't know if this is a square peg round hole kind of thing. How is he going to adapt? And I think what we're seeing from Stamkos this PBR week and recently this season is a veteran player who is finding new ways to contribute to this team. And it may not look like what we thought it would look like on July 1st, 2024. But man, Steven Stamkos is just finding ways to be that special player for the Preds. And so that for sure is my happy this week.
My happy is Stamkos adjacent. So that's
I love that.
That's a good lead in. I'm gonna have to go, I think, this week with Roman Yossi's 1000th game, and I'll
Mm.
point out that it's great in the sense that that was the first player to play 1,000 games for the Preds. I mean, I've seen them do the silver stick thing with a lot of guys over the
Right.
years, but none of them have been on the team for all 1,000 of those games. So I think that's a really cool milestone. But what makes it my happy is that the game itself was memorable. So it's not just, oh,
Yes.
do you remember Roman Yossi played 1,000 games? Well, it was a memorable 1,000th game. It had everything you want to see. It had the Stamkos hat trick, which is why I said
Hmm.
it's adjacent. Evangelista was setting up goals and a dramatic comeback from way behind win. Ottawa, I think by the end of that game, didn't even look like an NHL team. I mean, that's quality stuff. You want to make the other team look like they don't even belong out there.
Yeah.
But then again, this kind of leads into my crappy. But I'll let you go ahead. Tell me yours.
Well, just to tag on your happy, there is nothing that delights some fans more than watching Brady Tkachuk break his stick over the
Yeah,
goal. That was a
yeah,
moment. But again, every week has a little crappy, and every week a little crappy must happen.
yeah.
Anyway, so for me, the crappy this particular week is the lack of depth scoring this PBR week. Of course, we talked about goals from Stamkos. We talked about Roman Yossi. He showed up, scored some goals. Marchessault scored some goals. Cole Smith did have an empty net goal for the Predators. And of course, shout out to Nick Blankenberg, who scored late in the Boston game to tie that up. So credit to them. But I appreciate that the veterans are doing some of the heavy lifting, but what I really think Nashville needs to see is more scoring from their depth players. And, we know there's potential there with a Bunting, with Eric Holla, Matthew Wood, Fedor Svechkov, the fourth line. I had an article out about them and their chances this past week. You
Right.
just need to see more from the depth players on this roster right now.
I'm with you. There's a reason they put everybody's name on the Stanley Cup when you win it. It's not because your top six guys do all the work, right?
Yes, absolutely. You've got to have those contributions if you want to compete.
It's got to come from everybody. My two biggest complaints about this team, and I would say this is my crappy, right?
Hmm.
My two biggest complaints about this team happened all week long, and that is one, the Preds got way down, way
Gosh,
early
yes.
in the Ottawa game. And look, I'll be the first one to admit, did I enjoy the comeback? Absolutely. I mean, that was peak hockey.
Yeah,
It was
that was
exciting.
great. Great.
They also got down early in the Boston game. They also lost steam while ahead in the Utah game and then ran out of steam completely. And what I need to see is a just consistent game from this team and or at least consistent play. Of course, we'll be taking a very deep dive on that soon, Ann. But I think for me is that we've talked a lot over the past several shows about who this team is. We spent a lot of time talking about what their reality is and discuss what it would actually take for the team to make it into the playoffs. And I think what you're seeing here is that the only thing consistent is inconsistency. And
Yes.
and when it comes to crappies for the week, and I just think if you're looking at, unfortunately, I think what to expect. It's that if they start off getting pushed around, they're going to make a pretty solid effort at a comeback. But if they start off with the lead, which isn't happening a ton of times, right?
Right.
They're just not hanging on to that lead. It's almost like, again, we go back to what we said last week. It's this adversity that they can deal with, but unfortunately, to get to that adversity point where you're really challenged and you want to step up, sometimes you just get too far behind,
Yeah.
and that doesn't lend itself well to playoff hockey.
I like what you say too about, they are consistently inconsistent at some point in time, inconsistency becomes an identity. And I think
Yeah,
that is really something that the Nashville Predators have to be mindful of. Again, I'm with you. I love the drama of a comeback. I was a theater major. I love the drama, but also it is a skill set for a team to get a lead and keep a lead and to play with a lead. That is an entirely different skill set for a hockey team than this, we're in adversity, we're digging in and we're digging out. You're not going to always have success that way. And
no,
so I think the inconsistency, you want to see this Predators team find a way to win games by scoring first and keeping a lead. And we just aren't seeing that consistently. It's troubling. It's a little troubling.
Well, it's almost like, and we'll probably discuss this a lot more here in a minute, but it's almost like you're having the teams being forced to step up when they're dealing with adversity, when they get behind early in a game. But all you really have to do if you want to feel that adversity at the beginning of the game is just look at the standings and see where you are and say, okay, hey, there's adversity right there, folks. Like this is make or break. And we've got to step up now. But for some reason, it's not happening until they get behind. And that is, unfortunately, Ann, that is not what you want to see.
No.
So
No.
when we come back, and it seems we've already burned through the first segment. It's crazy. When we come back, we're going to take a look at how to be more consistent, right? How to fix this, if I must say. And I think it'll be an interesting segment. We've got a lot to talk about. And before we go, I do want to tell you about Tennessee Valley Paving. Tennessee Valley Paving is a third-generation family-owned and operated company serving Middle Tennessee since 1957. They handle everything from driveway and parking lot paving to municipal and commercial projects, and even specialty work like tennis courts and aviation pads. They're bonded, hold an unlimited license, and ready to serve your paving and sealing needs. Call Tennessee Valley Paving today at 615-794-2351 or visit TennesseeValleyPaving.com. Tennessee Valley Paving, serving the region with quality you can count on. Welcome back to Penalty Box Radio Live. Hungry late at night? Beyond the Edge in East Nashville has you covered, serving lunch, dinner, and late night favorites with a kitchen open until 2 a.m. It's the perfect spot to grab a bite, catch the game on one of over 30 TVs, and choose from 25 beers on tap. Don't miss happy hour every weekday from 2 to 6 and 2-for-1 Sundays that keep the good times rolling. Beyond the Edge East Nashville is East Nashville's favorite sports bar. Find them at 112 South 11th Street. All right, and we're back. And we promised that we would be talking about the whole Nashville starting situation. And I believe you wanted to start this off with some advice. You call it good parenting advice. And let me hear what you have to say.
So thinking about the Nashville Predators starts as we've watched them struggle, and we've just talked about inconsistency where rough start, find a way to kind of push back, whether that results in a win or not. But it was funny as I watched this kind of phenomenon unfold with the Predators, it reminded me of some of the best parenting advice that I got as we were starting to have kids. And that is the advice that you start as you mean to go on. And I think that is
Explain
just
that to
key
me,
advice. You know, I know I knew you were going to ask me for an explanation, and I'm trying to think of one where I don't embarrass myself by giving you the opposite of that. Like,
well, I think I know what you mean. Is it okay if I interject here? I don't want to interrupt
do, because
you.
I don't want to have to tell
thunder.
the story. I don't want to tell the stories where it went wrong, friend.
So as many of you are aware, I'm also a high school teacher. And I think one of the lessons I learned, and I don't mind embarrassing myself a little bit here, is that you have to start the year the way you want to end it. Meaning, if you allow problems, right, like in the classroom, you allow misbehavior, you're never going to be able to rein it back in. But if you shut everything down from the start and you show everybody that you mean business, and that when you say something, you mean it, and that any kind of misbehavior does have a consequence with it, then you typically don't have to start reining kids back in as time goes on. Is that a good example?
That is so much better an explanation than me and the word that my kid sang song through the grocery store because I accidentally let him say it at home.
Oh.
Yep.
That sounds
not
like
the one you
story.
think, but it was embarrassing nonetheless.
Oh, boy.
I do think there, like you say, it is setting the expectation early. And I think that is something that Nashville has really struggled to do, is to set the expectation early for this is how we're going to play, which is interesting because Nashville knows exactly how they have to play to be successful. Right. There is not a mystery around what it needs to look like. The mystery is, why isn't it happening? And the fact is, it's not happening, Shaun. Currently Nashville ranks 29th out of 32 teams in the league when it comes to scoring first period goals. The Predators have scored 37 goals in the first period. The leaders this season in first period goals are, of course, you've got Colorado up there. And these are teams scoring, the mid 50s to upper 50s when it comes to first period goals. Nashville is nearly 20 goals behind in first period goals. Interestingly, though, they are 10th in the league when it comes to third period goals. They've scored 60 in the third period. And I think that is something that the eye test for a lot of fans will confirm. Hey, we see some slow starts, but we have seen this team be able to take it up a notch as the game goes on. And while it may be fun for the drama, it does not always result in wins. And it is something that I think Nashville has to address. It isn't right now that Nashville can't score goals. I mean, we've seen that movie, earlier in the season. It's that they aren't starting out strong with regards to goal scoring. And I think there are other factors in there that we have to talk about. But, focusing on the goal scoring early, it's a problem. Setting the expectation of play early has been a consistent problem for the Predators.
But Ann, I mean, scoring goals is only half the issue, right? I mean, as much as we can say, well, they haven't scored a lot of goals in the first period, the other issue is that teams are scoring a lot of goals early. I mean, is there anything there?
Yeah, there is. It's interesting and slightly painful. Friends, Nashville is first in the league when it comes to the number of goals scored against in the first period. 58 goals have been scored against the Nashville Predators. Yes, it is a superlative. Yes, number one.
All right.
Keep it quiet. Number one. But then it drops down to they give up 23rd. They're at 23 out of 32 teams in the second period. They give up the sixth fewest goals in the third period. So you're seeing a number of things come together in the first period, a number of things starting to change in the second, and a very different look in the third period when it comes to goals for and goals against from the Predators. So it's not just goal scoring. It is goaltending. It is defense. But why is this a problem, Shaun? We know it's a problem.
You don't ask me. I'm not on the team.
Well, funny you mentioned that. Funny you mentioned that, friend, because earlier this week before the team went out on the road trip, I sat down and talked with both Luke Evangelista and Nick Blankenburg. And I asked them, what is going on with these slow starts? What is the problem? This is what Evangelista and Blankenburg had to say about starts for the Nashville Predators.
I think when we have that desperation, we have to find that desperate mindset because I think we've seen it a ton this year where when we are desperate and we have to claw our way back out of goals, like we play some extremely good hockey, and like you saw last night, like that's coming back from a 3-goal deficit in the last 22 minutes of the game in the NHL is like that's hard to do, but we've proven we're capable, and when we do have that desperate mindset, we're a very hard team to compete against. So I think it's finding a way to channel that energy in that first period, in that first couple shifts, and not find ourselves in a hole. Like it's happened a lot this year, and I think that's the next step of our evolution as a team. Taking that next step is playing that complete 60.
Honestly, I think that's $1 million question right now, right? Because we're obviously aware of it. You know what I mean? Like we're talking about it for the last couple of games. Like, hey, we need to have a good start. We need to be ready to go. And then I don't know what it is. I don't know if we just need to not think about it. I feel like when you think about things so much, then it ultimately, you know what I mean? Like you start overthinking things. So I don't know. Maybe just simplify it and just go out there and just play hockey. And I mean, we know what we're capable of, and just use that and go from there.
From Luke Evangelista, the second speaker, of course, was Nick Blankenburg. It's interesting. I think the biggest thing that jumps right out at me immediately when you hear from both of those guys, and I know that Blankenburg's comments got cut short there. What's interesting to me is that he says, hey, look, we know, like we're aware, right? We have conversations about it. We're talking about it. So I think when you're sitting at home or you're sitting in the stands and you're like, oh my God, I need to do something. Like it's not that they don't know they need to do something, right? As he was saying, it's like you get out there and you say, okay, we got it. We got to have a hot start. We got to get going early. We got to make this happen. And then you get out there and it just doesn't.
Yeah. And I hate to say this because obviously this is a problem up and down the roster. But I think, Evangelista made an interesting point that this is about the first couple of shifts. And right. You look at the players out on the first couple of shifts and you really do have just a couple of shifts to set the tone, not just for your team and your bench, but to send a message to the other team and the other bench. And when that doesn't happen right away, then this team begins spinning its wheels to figure out, how do we get there now? You have to start as you mean to go on. And again, it sounds simple. Evangelista said we need to find that desperate mindset. As you mentioned earlier in the show, look at the standings.
Yeah,
we're in January, and if you really want this roster to stay together, if you want to contend with this team, and this is a very tight team in the locker room, you've got to win games, and that has to start at first puck drop.
Well, and you look back, like you mentioned, it's the first couple of shifts. I don't remember which game it was. You might be able to fill in the details for me here, but McCarron drops the gloves at the opening faceoff. I mean, that's setting the tone, and what happened when they set the tone that way? They pretty much dominated the game, right?
Right. The other thing,
they did go to overtime. That was Edmonton, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was Edmonton challenged him right away. But still,
they ended up winning the game.
Nick Blankenberg said something, and I'm not sure if this got played or not, but he talked about, you can overthink this. Sure. And maybe the solution is to simplify. And it's interesting. That was a solution for scoring goals early when they were struggling to score the goals early. It was, we need to simplify our game.
Right.
And maybe this is a team that needs to work on, you simplify what you're doing early in the game. And maybe that will give you what you need, the jump to start this game. But it is something Nashville's got to address.
I agree. And I'll say this, and then we need to move into a break here. But it's like Luke Evangelista said also in that same conversation you had with him. We didn't get this part on the show, but he made the comment that when he's going through a slump, he focuses on moving his feet and winning puck battles. It's minor things that will lead to improvement in play. It's not focusing on, we've got to win this game. It's what can I do and do right now to make sure that this gets taken care of. So when we come back, we'll discuss this a little bit more. We'll talk about the Preds' current reality, as we've been doing over the past few shows. But before we go to break, I want to tell you about Verbero Selects. It's a premier youth hockey organization dedicated to developing elite athletes through high-level training, competitive play, and character-driven leadership. Their spring and summer 2026 programs are designed for players who want to elevate their game, compete at a high level, and grow both on and off the ice. Players will receive actual coaching and a fully organized spring hockey experience from start to finish. They honor the traditions of the game while building athletes defined not just by skill, but by discipline, toughness, purpose, and leadership. Verbero Selects will compete in elite tournaments this spring and summer, including events in Nashville and Denver, with flexible registration options available. Each registered player receives a complete uniform package, including a jersey, socks, pants shell, and performance T-shirt. For full schedules, age groups, pricing options, and registration details, visit VerberoSelects.com. That's VERBERO Selects.com. Welcome back to Penalty Box Radio Live on 102.5 The Game. This segment of Penalty Box Radio Live is brought to you by Green Ventures. Green Ventures is your local, family-owned landscaping company dedicated to making your outdoor space look its best. From lawn care and seasonal cleanups to full landscape design, they bring the tools, the team, and the know-how to get the job done right. Whether it's your home, your business, or your neighborhood, Green Ventures keeps Middle Tennessee green and growing. Head over to greenventureslandscaping.com today and let Green Ventures bring your yard to life. Right, and we are back.
We are back.
I wonder sometimes when I say "and we are back," people think I'm saying "and we are back," but I'm saying "and." I'm referring to you, my faithful co-host here.
Can I tell you how many times in high school I thought I was getting called out by a teacher when they would do that same thing? And I was like, I don't know the answer. Yeah. A lot of pressure.
Those high school teachers, man.
Getcha.
I don't know about them sometimes.
Sketch.
Yeah. I know this one guy. Anyway, okay, we're back. We I think what we're gonna do here is we're just gonna go. Let's get real, man.
Let's do it.
It's time to stop being polite and start being real. Isn't that what they used to say on The Real World, Ann?
I think they did. Real World Nashville. That's Nashville hockey.
Do that. They never did one in Nashville. Let's go. Okay, so look, the Predators are currently 4 points. I say currently. Look, I'm talking. This is a live show. It's Wednesday, January 28th at 6:33 p.m. The Predators are currently, there's the reason I said currently, 4 points out of the last wild card spot. Last week it was 3 points, so a 1 point loss here. But now, and this is the fun part, there are 3 teams ahead of them, all with 57 points. So that's the Sharks, the Kings, the Kraken. Of note is that they are also only 2 points ahead of Chicago. I kind of like to take a look at that too, because if you recall, there's all the drama about Chicago rebuilding and the Predators not rebuilding, and how whatever you want to call it, a creative refashioning instead of a rebuild, or whatever the word was, is better than a full and total tear down and rebuild. But 2 points ahead of Chicago. Predators are 5th in the Central Division. They're 11th in the West, and if they were in the Eastern Conference, which is the fun, new, cool thing I like to look at, they would be 16th of 17 in the Eastern Conference. And again, I'm aware that is most likely a useless stat, but again, some people still look at plus minus. Now, and last week, I said I would be happy with 4 out of 6 points on the last PBR week, and they came away with 3 of the 6. And while that just falls 1 point short of the mark, it feels to me like a much bigger gap. I don't know. Do you feel the same way, Ann?
You know what I always say about feelings, Shaun?
Oh, boy.
I don't. Yes, it does feel the same way. Feelings are not facts. Yeah. We'll phrase it that way.
Okay, there
we already did crappies.
Okay.
But I do think that it feels like more than 1 point. And I think part of that is the inconsistency as we just zoom in closely and watch the Nashville Predators this PBR week. But if you, again, zoom out, like you mentioned, this is such a unique situation that we're seeing in the Western Conference with so many teams vying for those 2 spots. And it is such a close race. We're in January, and there's just not a lot of division in the Western Conference separating these teams out. So I agree with you. I think that 1 point feels much larger right now in January. We're used to that feeling happening in early April, late March.
Now, here's something interesting. One of the things we said on the last show, we said that these games in this upcoming 2 PBR weeks, meaning last PBR week and next PBR week, we thought would go a huge way to determining how Barry Trotz felt about what to do at the trade deadline and what this team was. And it's really interesting because here we are, 1 week into that 2-week stretch. And yesterday, Barry Trotz was on DVD, and they asked him about the games leading up to the Olympic break and the eventual trade deadline on March 6th, and how important those results would be in influencing decisions. And here's what he had to say. He said, "I don't think they're going to have much at all, really. It's clear to me where we have to go with our team, and so I don't think it's going to change a whole lot. I have a really good sense of where we are in the bigger scheme."
That is Barry Trotz saying "liar, liar, pants on fire" to us from last week.
No, I don't think that's what he's really saying there. I think that he's saying that he saw this last week, and now he kind of has a good idea. Yeah, I don't think he's saying we're liars. I think he's saying that he saw all he needed to see last week, and now the path is clear.
I do think that you are getting a pretty clear picture. And while the play may not be consistent, I think you have a pretty consistent picture. What are we, 52 games into the season? I think that Barry Trotz especially, but I think the fan base as well, has a pretty good gauge of what this team is. And, while it is still exciting to watch this team compete, I do think that you have to have some idea by now, certainly Barry Trotz does, of who this team is. And I thought it was interesting that, it doesn't sound like these next couple of games before the break, the 11 games remaining until the trade deadline, are really going to dramatically change what Barry Trotz was doing. And I think that makes some fans feel better.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, which fans do you think it makes feel better?
Well, I think a lot of people were worried that maybe Barry Trotz was going to see, this uptick for the Predators and go, oh, now, wait a second. What do we have here? And while there are certainly things to what do we have here about this Nashville Predators team and about what they're able to do, I think that it is reassuring to some members of the fan base who say, hey, we may have something here, but we don't have it all here yet. And I think the reality is that, Nashville is where the standings say they are right now.
Right.
I think that this is a fringe wild card team playing at, when they play at their best, when their goaltending is good enough to help steal some games, when the top players are producing. I think that this is where Nashville is in the big picture of the NHL.
I,
Are you going to disagree with me out loud?
disagree with you out loud.
Out loud.
I would have agreed with you last week. This is what we've been saying, but I no longer think that this is a fringe wildcard team. I mean, fringe meaning that they have a chance of making it in. I think maybe in a weaker Western Conference, sure, they would be a fringe team, but I don't think that's the reality right now. And all of those puzzle pieces you said had to be there for them to be a team that, and again, you did say that when they are at their best, they're a fringe wild card
when
team,
they are at their best, yes.
At their best requires a lot of pieces to fall into place at the same time. And I don't see that happening consistently enough to really say that. So, if that's the case, what do we think? What's Trott's sense of where the team is in the bigger picture? And what do you think he needs to do next? Yeah.
For me, I think Barry Trotz has to keep his phone in his hand. Even if he needs to use the restroom, he needs to take his phone with him. And, if that phone rings, pick it up. And I do believe from what we're hearing from Trotz, that's where he's at. I think that it, should be reassuring to the fan base that, Trotz seems to have a pretty good read, a more realistic than romantic idea about this Predators team from what he is saying in his interviews. I think that he understands that if the phone rings, he picks it up. He's going to listen to every offer. Everything is on the table. And I think that's what you need to hear from your general manager when your team is where the Predators are right now. Now, that's not to say I think he should do all the things at once, but he has to hear all the offers.
Oh, yeah. Well, again, you said it is reality, not romantic, right?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the there's this show, it's been fairly popular, maybe you've heard of it, called Ted Lasso.
Oh, one of the best shows, truly one of the best shows ever made. Second best show we've ever watched. Yes. Fantastic.
Really good show about soccer. Yeah. And here's the thing. We've got to remember something about that show. I think it's interesting. Everybody likes to point to, and they've made a lot of facsimiles of this and sell them, and I see them popping up in classrooms and locker rooms. But you remember the Believe sign?
I actually have one in my office. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so there's a lot of talk around the Believe sign. It stood for a lot of things. Ted, as the coach, would slap it, point to it, reference it, all of those things. It was an ever-present reminder in the locker room that they had to believe. The players all rallied around it for the most part. But you notice the owner never came down and touched it or talked about it or made mention of it, right? Now, I could be misremembering. And if I'm wrong and somebody's like, no, it happened in episode this, scene whatever, please tell me I'm wrong somewhere. It always makes me feel better when I'm wrong. But she never comes down and does that.
Yeah.
And I think it's, that's your reality, is that it's nice to, as a member of the team or as a coach of the team, push for the playoffs and feel like that's something that's going to happen. And that if you just believe, if you just try your best, if, all of those cliches, right? That you'll make it in. And then of course there's the whole, if you just make it in, anything can happen. And that's benefited several teams I can think of in the past, like the Nashville Predators in 2017 and the St. Louis Blues a few years later. But that is not
that is the exception.
Something I would bank on. Right.
That is not the rule. That is the exception, and it is exciting, and therefore it sticks out. But that is not the rule in playoff hockey, for sure. Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. You really in it, and I think that it again brings up a discussion about how interesting the perspective must be for Barry Trotz, because he has been both the coach pointing at the Believe sign,
right,
and is now the general manager who that is not his true north.
And that's not who you want him to be either.
Right.
You don't want him to be. You don't want him to be up there saying, I believe in this team, and if they get in the playoffs, anything can happen. Because if you do that enough, it's very Pollyanna, stuff that isn't always going to work out. And would probably change a lot of people's opinions about him as a GM if that's how he was operating. Like, I remember David Poyle said, if I'd be a bad GM if I didn't know what each of my players was worth at any given time, right?
Right. You absolutely have to have a different perspective as the general manager. And speaking of different perspectives, I know we need to go to break. When we come back, though, Shaun, I do want to share some poll results that we have from Twitter. We asked some of the fan base about their perspective on Barry Trotz and Andrew Brunette. I thought it was really interesting, but we can dive into that, next segment. How about that?
What you're saying, Ann, is that when we come back, we're going to talk about those poll results?
I think we should. And I think we should also play a fun little game.
Okay. But first, Ann, Boston Commons is where New England meets Nashville. And we invite you to enjoy seafood, pub fare, and Southern flair in East Nashville. Favorites like lobster rolls, fish and chips, and clam chowder are all on the menu. Reservations are recommended, especially on game days. So ship up to Boston Commons in East Nashville at 1008 Woodland Street. That's Boston Commons, where New England meets Nashville. Welcome back to Penalty Box Radio Live. This segment of Penalty Box Radio Live is brought to you by Tennessee Valley Paving. Tennessee Valley Paving has been family-owned and operated since 1957, now in its third generation. From residential driveways to commercial lots, city road work, and specialty paving like tennis courts and aviation pads, they do it all. Plus, they offer sealing to protect your investment. Need paving you can trust? Call 615-794-2351. or visit TennesseeValleyPaving.com. Tennessee Valley Paving, trusted locally and built to last. All right, Ann, we are back. That's Ann, A-N-N. We are back. And Ann, you said that when we came back, what were we going to do? We're going to look at poll results. Is that right?
We're going to look at some poll results. Yeah. So talking about Barry Trotz and his vision for the future. And I also threw in there a little Andrew Brunette question just to sort of gauge where, the fan base that we interact with, where are they at? And so the questions that we put out today on Twitter had to do with confidence level. What is your confidence level right now when it comes to Barry Trotz as general manager? And I think the results are very interesting. 50% of the votes say that their confidence level is better than it was.
Okay.
Confidence level high, 8%, low, 42%. But I know that low number feels big, but I think it's really important to focus on 50% of the people that responded say, you know what, I'm feeling more confident in Barry Trotz. Now,
well, that's good.
Not everybody is feeling that way. Some of the feedback was, we had one Twitter user say, I disagree with most of the moves Trotz has made with younger players, and I don't have confidence he can develop young players and build a cup contender team from the ground up. I think it's important to point out that he actually isn't trying to build a cup contender from the ground up. And I think that is, something important to point out. We're not Chicago Blackhawking it. And that's why it may look different. Right. Now, you'll have to see that that's the thing about a general manager. As much as you may want to fire them in the first year, you got to give them runway to see what they're going to do. And I think people are watching Barry Trotz this trade deadline pretty closely. We also asked again about Andrew Brunette. What's your confidence level currently? And Andrew Brunette is the head coach in the Nashville Predators. 47% say it is better now than when the season began.
Okay.
So I think that is an interesting number. And of course, the team's success is going to help the coaches, look a little bit better and people feel more confident. But I think that the fan base is feeling better. Maybe not great, but feeling better as we are seeing the Nashville Predators have a little bit more success. I think it's interesting.
And I think I will say this too. Mm-hmm. You go back to the comment from Twitter saying, I disagree with most of the moves he's made with younger players. I have confidence he can develop young players and build a cup contender team from the ground up. I really don't think this team is too many moves away from being a contender, in all honesty.
I think it depends on where they come from. Yeah, that's a show from another. I think it depends on, are you raising them up or are you bringing them in?
That's I don't mean raising them up. I'm talking about bringing them in. But
bringing them in.
We're talking about bringing them in, and that's a different show. That's probably a whole show that we'll get to later.
That's probably a whole show.
But not tonight. But I just wanted to throw that out there.
Let's put a pin in that show idea for the Olympic break.
Okay, there we go. Great idea.
Put a pin in that, friends. Circle back over the Olympic break.
Okay, now you said something about a game. And is there a game?
Yeah, I think we're gonna. Hockey is fun, friends. So we're gonna keep this segment of Penalty Box. Well, yeah, ain't that the truth? We're gonna keep this fun. We're gonna play a game of fill in the blank. And Shaun, I'm gonna put you on the spot first. So I'm gonna read you a sentence with some blanks in it. Fill in the blank.
Okay.
All right. First, we're gonna kick it off with this. Barry Trotz should not trade blank unless blank.
Yeah, I'm glad there's an unless there.
There always has to be an unless.
And I wish I'd had time to prepare. I feel like I could say so much. Barry Trotz should not trade anyone, and that may sound controversial and shocking, but I'm going to say that he should not trade anyone unless he doesn't have to retain salary. Because if we're looking at a clear path ahead, you can't keep retaining salary for years down the road. And this is a team that still has Matt Duchene for 3 more seasons. 3 more seasons after this season. Kyle Turris for 2 more seasons after this season. And this season still paying for Matthias Ekholm, albeit not a lot. I don't even mind paying that. And Colton Sissons this season. That's 11% of the cap space this season alone is taken up by those 4 guys. And it's mostly Duchene. And I could easily make a statement on a pending UFA, right? I could say he should not train, I don't know, Cole Smith and get into it. But let's be real. There are some long-term contracts that could be really tricky to get out of if you weigh the on-ice product and find it wanting. Now, again, I wish I'd had time to prepare, but your turn.
I don't disagree with you because, and we won't belabor this point. I don't disagree with you because if you were talking about making this team closer to a cup contender by bringing in, you got to have the money. You got to have the money. So I agree with you. For me, when it comes to Barry Trotz should not trade blank unless blank for me. And I know this will be controversial, but what am I if not that? Trotz should not trade Michael McCarron unless he gets a depth center in return who has NHL experience. Look, friends, I know Michael McCarron may not be glamorous. I know that he is not scoring like he would like to. He's not cashing in some of the chances that his line is generating. Again, I have an article about that at penaltyboxradio.com. But here's what is real. Michael McCarron is solid in the faceoff circle. He is your top level penalty killer. He is a heart piece in the locker room. And if you think because he is just a 4th line guy that you could get rid of him in the locker room, wouldn't notice, there is probably not another player that would cause grief and weeping and gnashing to lose. Maybe one other player, I should say that, ahead of Michael McCarron. He is a key piece for this team, off the ice and on the ice. So unless you get another ready to go quality center, I'd keep McCarron. I'd re-sign him.
Okay. Yeah. And I want to point out, Ian, we're going to do the thing again this week, even though it's a full show, where our producer Brandon will chime in and let us give us a 1-minute warning to make sure we get out on time. But I will say, those of you listening live right now, we are going to have a podcast only 5th segment. So we'll continue the discussion on the podcast if we run out of time. Yep. So let's keep going until we run out.
All right. Well, our next fill in the blank, and Shaun, I'm making you do this first. One of the worst things that could happen for the Nashville Predators in this stretch of the season is blank. What is one of the worst things?
They could go on a hot streak, and that would encourage no changes and just, hanging on to UFAs that could bring a good return on the trade market. I'm ready to hurt some feelings and get ready for next season. Yeah, I think that's
a segment people to agree with. For me, one of the worst things that could happen is an injury to Ryan O'Reilly. Not only would you lose his on-ice production and that off-ice leadership, but you also lose that trade value. And that is a piece that I think Barry Trotz is going to take phone calls on. What he does with those calls, I don't know. But you got to know what that player is worth. So for me, you got to keep Ryan O'Reilly healthy. You also, can we give him a pep talk? After the other night's game, I thought he was going to go home.
We got the 1-minute warning. Ann, did you hear that?
I did. We got to wrap this up.
I agree. We just need somebody to go tell Ryan O'Reilly that he's awesome and just
Gosh darn it, people like you.
That's right. He just needs to look in the mirror and give himself a pep talk. He's an incredible player, incredible person.
Yeah.
Just sometimes it doesn't shine through in the way he talks after the game, especially after a loss. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to get out of here. Of course, if you're listening on the podcast, stick around for the fifth segment. Thanks, of course, for listening to Penalty Box Radio Live. Thank you, Ann, for joining me tonight. Thank you, Brandon, for producing us. Penalty Box Radio Live is presented by Tennessee Valley Paving, Beyond the Edge East Nashville, Boston Commons, Drifters Barbecue, Green Ventures Landscaping, Verbero Selects, and, of course, Timber and Blade. We'll see you again next week. Okay, for those of you listening on the podcast, thanks for sticking with us after the end of the show. Of course, that is the live show that we have on 102.5 The Game here in Nashville every week, Wednesday, usually at 8 o'clock at night. But this episode was very special and started at 6, which was very cool to be on earlier. They'll probably be a little less structured, and we will try not to ramble on and just get to the things that we had left on the table to discuss. Probably to the thousands of you that listen to the show on the podcast, you're aware that, this is a radio show that we do live, and we just put the audio on the podcast, but this is not going out over the air, and we always have tons of stuff left over. I feel bad because I know that Ann works really, really hard for a lot of the things that she pulls and the information and stats and research she does. And I hate that we don't always get to it. So we're going to do that now. We wanted to start off by continuing our fill in the blanks and then just take a look at the upcoming PBR week, and then we'll get out of your ears. So, Ann, let's keep going on the blank filling.
Yeah, let's do that. So our last one that we talked about on the show is one of the worst things that could happen for the Predators in this stretch of the season is blank. I wanted to throw out there one answer that we got online. One of the worst things that could happen for the Predators is standing pat, because at this point, that is not a strategy. And that really dovetails, Shaun, with what you were saying. No change at this point, regardless of success or failure on the ice, is not an avenue that the Nashville Predators really want to take at this point in the season, regardless. And I get that it's tricky. You want to dance with the girl you brought. And if the Predators squeak into the wild card, you want to honor the players that helped you get there. But that's just not where the Predators are right now. So I thought that was an interesting perspective. Our last fill in the blank that we have is this: the player whose performance could make or break the Predators' chances at that wild card spot is...
And I want you to start.
Oh, you do? Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
For me, UC Saros.
Okay. Why?
No matter how well your top guys are performing, and shout out to the top players, the Stamkoses, the Yossi's, the O'Reillys. I think Luke Evangelista is one of those top guys now for the Predators. No matter how well they play, they have got to have UC Saros make some saves and steal some games. And I really think, we've talked about a number of factors that go into making a competitive team. And I think for Nashville, especially where they're at right now and the way this roster is structured, UC Saros is that guy. And sometimes we're seeing him steal those games, and sometimes we're not. And I think he is the key.
And I think what's funny too is that we spend so much time on the show talking about the players, like the skaters, right? We talk about forwards, we talk about defenders, and I have a lot of comparisons I can draw to youth hockey just because I'm in that world a lot. But my son plays defense, and sometimes when goals get scored, a lot of people want to point the finger at the defenders and say, you should have had this guy, you shouldn't have let him get in the zone, or you shouldn't have let him get inside. But at the end of the day, especially at the NHL level, there's a guy in that blue ice. He gets paid a lot of money to stop the pucks. And so it may have to get by 5 other people first, but at the end of the day, that guy's getting paid to stop it. And if he's not stopping it and he's not stealing games, then you're not going anywhere.
Right.
And maybe that sounds harsh, but that's reality.
It is reality. And honestly, that's the gig they sign up for. That is the gig I would never sign up for that very reason. But, you want to be that guy. And I think Nashville also just has in its DNA the expectation that the goaltender, and this goes back to Pekka Rinne, that goaltender is going to be the golden ticket. And I think in some ways Nashville allows for maybe some gaps in other areas because the expectation is you've got the goaltender. And I do think for Nashville, UC Saros has to be that guy, or they will not get there. They just won't get there.
As much as people have talked about like Nashville's ability to produce defenders.
Very true.
And develop defenders. This is a franchise that has focused on having a strong presence in the net to be the backstop and to cover all of those mistakes going back for most of the history of the team.
Right.
And it's funny, but that's what this team has been set up to do. It's who they've been set up to be. And they're not afraid to pay big money to a good goaltender to stop the pucks. So.
I think it's interesting too, especially looking at most recently Rinne and Saros. You're looking at two very differently built goaltenders. You're looking at goaltenders that really play a very different style. I'm very excited for what's coming up when eventually Jack Ivankovic gets a chance to train in the system, because he very much is Saros stature, Saros style. And so I think it's a credit to the goaltending coaches in the front office, people who really are identifying talent and finding ways to develop different looking goaltenders into successful goaltenders. You're going to need a lot out of UC Saros. It's a big, long contract. You're going to need a lot out of Saros.
Looking at the Puckpedia today for all of the information on those retained salary contracts and the buyouts and all of that, you realize that this is a very long contract for Saros. He's going to be here for it's only just begun.
I'm not going to sing it, but you're right.
You can sing it.
I will not.
Saying you're going to sing on the show. But you also have Annunen now here for a while as well. So you know who's going to be behind him. They obviously have a lot of confidence in who we like to call Big Juice as well. And I wanted you to go first because my short answer was Saros. I had nothing beyond that. And I think
fair.
I think we discussed it well enough. Let's talk about this upcoming week and let's get these fine folks out of here.
Yeah, so this next PBR week, it kicks off tomorrow night on the road against the New Jersey Devils. I think this is going to be such an interesting game, Shaun. A couple weeks ago, you would have been like, New Jersey Devils, but New Jersey's won 5 of their last 8. This is a team that has been on the struggle bus, and they're trying to find their way out. I just want to throw this out there and see where it lands here, friends. The goal leader for the New Jersey Devils in their last 5 games, that is Charlotte's dad, friends, Cody Glass. Former Nashville Predator Cody Glass is kind of finding his footing there. I want to be careful not to lean too hard into the narrative of Nashville trades a player and they go off, because this has been, a long road for Cody Glass to find his game, but that's kind of where he's at. I think special teams is going to be big in this game right now. New Jersey Devils ranked 10th on the power play. They've got Timo Meier. They've got Nico Hischier. Like, this is a very strong top power play unit for them. And they're finding some of their late game fight. They came back from down 4-1 against Winnipeg. Now they did lose 4-3, but they were down 4-1. And so this is a team that knows you got to claw your way back. So I think it's going to be interesting to pair up Nashville in their mindset and the Devils in their mindset tomorrow night on the road. I'm really interested in this one.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, and I don't think you're giving too much credence to the Cody Glass thing. I think it's, like you said, that's been a long process, and I'm glad he's finding some success there. Like that's good.
Top tier fella too. Good egg, that Cody Glass.
I have nothing against him at all. I liked him a lot.
Yeah, good egg.
Coming up after that, you've got the New York Islanders. Oh,
yeah, on the road.
Interesting one for me, Ann.
Yeah, what jumps out to you when you're looking at Preds Islanders Saturday night? This is a 6 p.m. puck drop for everybody. Central Time, 6 p.m. Central Time puck drop on the road.
It's probably because of another former Predator that's on the Islanders, and that would be the goaltender, Big Save Dave.
Big Save Dave. Big Save Dave. Remember, we were nice to you. David Riddick, back up to Ilya Sorokin, always just seems to stick it to the man.
Yeah.
When it comes to the Predators, it's like, Dave, buddy, I thought we were friends. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Right now, Ilya Sorokin has the best high danger save percentage right now. But you know what? It seems like Nashville is the David Riddick team.
Yeah.
I think that may be how it goes down. As we speak right now, too, the Islanders are playing the Rangers. They're playing back-to-back games Wednesday and Thursday. So as of the time of the recording, they're in their first game of their back-to-back. So it'll be interesting to see how the Islanders and Rangers go. Man, Islanders and Rangers, very interesting.
Yeah.
Two New York teams, interesting seasons. Fascinating fellas there.
And of course, can't get away without playing this team yet again on Monday night.
Friends, buckle up, because Monday at Bridgestone Arena, 7 p.m. puck drop time. The spicy St. Louis Blues. Man, 3 games against St. Louis in December, Shaun, and there wasn't one of them that was not hot-tempered. Nashville 1-2, lost one. They won 7-2, 5-2, and then lost 3-2 late in December after Christmas. So this game, man, these two teams, there is something in the air.
Yeah.
Not a lot of love lost here. And no. I don't know that it's so much about the standings. I don't know what it's about, but it's a no thank you for the Predators with the Blues. It's a no thank you.
It's going to be interesting. I'll say that. And I'm looking at this, and again, I've mentioned on the show that I think I'm off of the make the playoffs train. I'm not saying that like in a negative way. It's just, I just think there's kind of at the point where that seems like it's drifting farther and farther away. And you're like, well, it's just a 4-point difference, but there's also 3 less games now for them to make up that difference. And it just starts to get, in my opinion, out of hand. So I'm looking at this, looking at a hot New Jersey team, hopefully a worn out Islanders team. Yeah. And what could be a very, as you said, spicy St. Louis game. And I'd like to see if you, and again, I'm not saying I expect it or that I think this is what's going to happen, but if you want to keep making a case for the playoffs, I think you need 5 out of these 6 points.
Yeah, I agree. I think, the Predators focus on winning the week, which is 2 out of 3 games. I think if you're seriously thinking you want to try to stay in the mix in the conversation, you're going to start having some weeks where you're going to need 5 of 6. 4 of 6 may not be enough, especially, when you're looking at St. Louis, who is making they're putting forth some effort to climb back up into this mix as well. So that's a game that the Predators need to win. Monday night, Bridgestone Arena. Bridgestone has been bringing it lately.
It has, the
great home crowds.
Good.
Great crowds. Hallelujah. They've been great.
What's hard for me, though, is that you've kind of reached this spot in the season where the team is playing exciting hockey that people want to go watch, which I think it was a struggle last season. It was not super exciting a lot of the time. And
it was angsty. Angsty.
You're getting to the point where I think people are going like, let's go see the Preds. Again, doing what we do, I think people who know that we do what we do. Like I said, the students at school know what I do, and they'll ask like, were you at the game last night? Or I want to go to the game this weekend. And I wasn't getting a lot of that last season. So I hate that they're getting this point in the season where they're playing some exciting hockey. And now we're talking about, well, we're going to have to make some trades and get rid of some guys and we're not in contention. So that's a rough one, but I think you want 5 out of 6 points this PBR week. That's really, Ann, I don't know what else you have to add, but I think I'm ready to call it a night here.
Yeah, nope, I agree. I think 5 out of 6 points would be good. And I also think, friends, if you have a favorite player who is a UFA, come see them at St. Louis, because I don't know. There is, of course, the pre-Olympic break freeze where no trades can be made. I believe it's from February 4th. Through, I think 29th. But anyway, over that course, there will be no NHL trades over the course of that break.
Which leaves a small window between that
that's right,
that freeze and the actual deadline. So
yeah, so it's going to get interesting. It's going to get interesting. Spicy. Yep, absolutely.
Well, Ann, thanks for sticking around and doing the extra. Brandon, thanks for producing us again. And everybody who stuck around and listened, thanks for listening. And of course, Penalty Box Radio Live is presented by Tennessee Valley Paving, Beyond the Edge, East Nashville, Boston Commons, Drifters Barbecue, Green Ventures Landscaping, Verbera Selects, and Timber and Blade. We will have a show next week. Thank you, everybody.